can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host right here, Eric Wilson. Today, we're ringing in the new year, and we're discussing the top players on the New York Rangers that need to step up in 2023. Now, this episode was inspired by our Forever Blue Shirts article, which we'll put in the description, but we're going to discuss three players that we think need to step up in 2023 in order for the Rangers to have a successful second half to their season and eventually make the postseason. So, we're going to go ahead and dive into those, but before we discuss these few players, Eric, how are you doing today?
No, I'm doing pretty good. It's a nice cold, rainy day up here in New York, just kind of relaxing, waiting for tonight's game against Carolina, which is kind of scary because, they're on an 11-game win streak, points in like 15 out of their last 16 games or something like that. So it's going to be a tough one later. But, if the Rangers keep playing like the way they've been playing, I think we'll be good. Sorry, I had a little weird moment right there.
You have many of those, but let's discuss Jaroslav Halak, because this is a player that we discussed in yesterday's episode, right? And we were talking about how Jaroslav Halak has actually began to step up, right? We're going to discuss why he needs to step up in a larger way in 2023, but he's a player that I think has really improved in recent weeks. To start the season off, Jaroslav Halak was pitiful. He just couldn't get a win to save his life. I think he was 0-6 to start the season as a starter for the Rangers goalie. Of course, he's a backup for Igor Shesterkin. It's always tough to step into those shoes and fulfill the goalie position when Igor's not in the lineup. Igor Shesterkin is the best goalie in the world, absolutely. So when he's not in the lineup, it's a little tough for Jaroslav Halak to go in there and replicate his performances. But as of late, Halak's been pretty good. So in late November, Halak started putting things together and is now 3-1-0 in his last four starts. Again, see, a huge improvement compared to the, I believe, 0-6 start that he had. Even more assuring are his improved GAA of 2.78 and .910 save percentage during the same time frame. For some context, Halak posted an awful .881 save percentage and was allowing over 3 goals per game, 3.20 GAA in his previous 6 starts. Like I said, 0-6 starts was really, really bad during that time frame, but he's really started to step it up here. So I think that it's a big difference when you have a goalie. You have Igor Shesterkin, but when he's not in the lineup, if you have a goalie that can go out there and at least be capable, give you some quality performances, it's a huge deal, because we don't need Igor Shesterkin playing every single game of the season. That's how he gets burnt out and starts to have lackluster performances come the postseason, right? So you need Jaroslav Halak to be a solid player, go out there midway through or at any given night and turn in something positive for the Rangers. And so far, at least in the month of November and some of December, he started to do that. So I think when we look ahead to 2023, it's going to be really important that the Rangers give Igor Shesterkin some rest days. And in order to do that, though, they need to rely on Jaroslav Halak. So I think it's huge for him to step up in 2023. But Eric, what are your thoughts on Jaroslav Halak, the way that he's played so far this season? I know he had a slow start, but started to pick it up. And how important is he to the success of the Rangers during the second half of the season?
So, yeah, obviously, Jaroslav Halak is going to be extremely important. As you mentioned, we can't play Igor Shesterkin every single game, especially at this point in the season. Before Halak started against Florida just 2 nights ago, he hadn't played in like 2 weeks. So Igor is going to start to get a little tired. He's playing most of the games this season. And as you mentioned, hopefully the Rangers are going to be making a postseason push, and Igor is going to be playing pretty much that entire time. So if we really want to get higher up in the standings, have the potential to get a divisional playoff spot or even win the Metropolitan Division, we're going to really need Halak to start stepping up, picking up these big wins when Igor does need his rest. And he has improved, as you've mentioned, but we've seen at the beginning of the season, he does have the potential to be really bad. So hopefully these new improved stats that have been coming will stay, but he's definitely going to need to step up a lot right there. And he's going to be a big factor if we want to finish higher up than we are right now.
Yeah, 1,000%. I think that it's really important for the Rangers to give Igor Shesterkin some nights off. He can't be Superman every single day. Sometimes he needs to be Batman. Go hide in his cave and rest for a little while, right? And just come out during the primetime matchups at night and beat some ass, right? He's got to be Batman. I love my comic books. Had to make that reference. Thought of it. I thought it was a good one. But let's go on to the next player.
It was a good
next one we're going to discuss is Jacob Trouba. Now, this is a player that Eric has been quite critical of in the past. So, Eric, I'm going to let you go ahead, discuss Jacob Trouba, why you think he needs to be better in 2023.
So, like you mentioned, I've been critical of Trouba, and it has nothing to do with his leadership abilities. You know, it's his first season as the captain, and I think he's done a pretty phenomenal job at it. He's proved that he can lead this team, and he has a voice in the locker room. You know, when the Rangers weren't playing that well, we were losing games that we really should have been winning. It all started when Jacob Trouba got angry, threw his helmet at the bench, and that changed like everyone's mindset. We started going on a 7-game win streak after that, and we started beating these really good teams in the league. And it's really just because of his leadership and the way that he controls the locker room that pretty much brings the team together and shows that we can still be a team that can make it to the Stanley Cup final, as we were only like 2 games away last season. But what we really need to see an improvement from him is just the way that he plays hockey rather than the way he just acts and holds the team together. You know, you look at last season, a season where we pretty much were the third best team in the league, you know, last team eliminated before the finals. He was playing phenomenally. You know, he had like a really good lockdown defense. It was really hard to get around him. And him and Keandre Miller had really great chemistry on the second defensive pairing right there. And plus, he was also scoring more points, you know. I think we have a quote coming up in a little bit that I'll bring up in a couple seconds. But you look at this season's stats from Trouba, he's only put up 2 goals, which is nothing compared to what he's done last season, 11 points, and he's a -4 so far. So while he's a good captain, he's not exactly been the best defenseman for the team so far this season. And he's really going to need to step it up, especially when you just look at the way that the defense has been this entire season. Adam Fox has obviously been phenomenal, as he always is. And then outside of that, everyone has just kind of played a little average. So for a guy like Trouba, who we're paying like $8 million a season, you kind of need him to step up, and we need to improve the defense overall. And it's all going to start with him, basically.
Yeah, it does start with him. I think that the defense will improve if Jacob Trouba improves, and there's no knock on his leadership capabilities. I mean, I think that when the Rangers went through that funk for a little while, he was the one that really rallied them out of it. You know, there was a lot of discourse on Twitter. Is he the right selection for captain? We even made a video discussing whether or not he was the right selection for captain, because it started to become a major question for the Rangers, and especially amongst fans. But when that happened, when fans started to question whether or not he was a good captain, he started to go out there to some of these press conferences, and there was a noticeable difference in the way that he was conducting himself, and thus a noticeable difference in the way that the team and as a whole was conducting itself. And I think that once Jacob Trouba made that change, and then the team made that change, that was the spark. After that, Gerard Gallant tried up a bunch of different lines, a whole slew of lineup changes. The Rangers start winning some games, and Trouba really seemed to be the pioneer that led them to getting back on track. So I think that when you look at what Trouba provides to the team, his value might not come in his performances as a defenseman for the Rangers, but it absolutely does come as a leader for the Rangers. So he is a very valuable player for the team, but in order for him to increase that value, live up to that price tag that you mentioned, Eric, over $8 million in his cap hit, in order to really improve that value, he needs to become a better player. Now, he's a great leader, great guy, but he needs to be a better player. Here's a quote from Forever Blue Shirts on him. The 28-year-old defender is showing signs of coming around, starting with a win over the St. Louis Blues on December 5th. Trouba has 2 goals, 5 points, and a +5 rating in 12 games. Coincidentally, the Rangers are 9-2-1 in that span. So there you go. That quote is really key because it highlights that there is literal data that suggests when he plays better, the Rangers win more games. Like, it is absolutely correlated. His performances result in wins. So Jacob Trouba, he steps it up in 2023, starts playing better. The Rangers will start winning more games. But let's move on to the next player. Now, I have a little bit of a differing opinion here, Eric. We're going to disagree for once. We don't do that very often, but
That's crazy.
Alexis Lafreniere, we have him listed. You came up with a list as one of the players that needs to step up in 2020-23. I personally don't even think that he needs to step up because I don't even think he's going to be here long term. I'm going out bold take, whatever. I know that a lot of Rangers fans are starting to have those questions. Is he maybe going to be traded?
In the comments for that.
I think Alexis Lafreniere is on his way out. I don't think that he's going to be here long term. I think this is a piece that the Rangers might look to move. Listen, he's been a good player in the past. He's young, one of the kids, but he hasn't really lived up to the expectations. And I think that when you look at the other kids, Hedel, Kakko, those guys are going crazy. Kaapo Kakko has been great this year. Hedo's also been excellent, and they are living up to the expectations. They're delivering on the hype. But Alexis Lafreniere he simply isn't. Healthy scratch a couple games ago, and what is the future for Alexis Lafreniere here? I don't know. If he does step up in 2023, as this video would suggest, if he does elevate his game, start living up to the hype, then sure, he can be a long-term piece. But right now, I think the Rangers have some big questions on Alexis Lafreniere, his standing here with the team. And unless he really turns it around and really starts to step up, I don't think he's even going to get the opportunity to step up, because I think he's going to be on his way out of here.
I mean, that's definitely an interesting opinion. I know like there have been rumors of teams like the Canucks are making calls interested in Lafreniere, but I really don't realistically see him being moved. I, if anything, it'd be at the trade deadline for like a player that's already developed, but I think that's a very low chance. But I do agree that he does need to step up a little bit. So far this season, he's only scored 5 goals, 12 assists for 17 points, which, it's not crazy for first overall pick, but you just look at his overall career numbers. He is on pace to set a new career high right there in points. So while his coming into the league, he didn't just burst out right out of the cannon and start putting up points. He's slowly making his way there. He's slowly breaking out, but he kind of does need to speed it up a little bit right now. Like you said, Lafreniere was a healthy scratch just a couple games ago, but he did come back in 2 nights ago against Florida. Didn't put up any points, but he did look a little bit better out there. It was kind of a little bit of a wake-up call for him, but we do need more from Lafreniere. You just look at, I'll just keep referencing the game against Florida. Pretty much every single goal and assist that was scored came from the top 6 right there, while Lafreniere was playing down on the third line. We're going to run into the same problem that we did throughout last year's playoffs, where we only had 2 lines that were producing and the rest of the team was kind of just there, just biding time, waiting for the other team to score on them. So if the Rangers do want to make a very deep playoff push and even potentially get into the playoffs, we're going to really need to see production from the entire team right there. Now, I chose Lafreniere's name just because he's probably one of the more notable ones on the bottom 6 right there, but it kind of does go for the entire bottom 6 in this discussion, where if we are going to do really good in 2023, we kind of need all of them to step up, and Lafreniere probably has the most potential out of everyone there. So that's why he's getting called out.
Yeah, and I think the potential is pretty much all that's there, though. I think when you look at Alexis Lafreniere, he just hasn't performed. Like, how long are you just going to keep banking on potential for a player when all of the other players that we said have great potential to break out, they're breaking out, except for Alexis Lafreniere. He's getting left behind. He is not having the season that Capo Caco and Filipino are having. So I guess, Eric, how much longer do you wait for him to start realizing that potential before you say, okay, maybe it is time to move on and find someone else to go ahead and join this roster?
I mean, I don't even think we need to talk about like this season, you just look at his career stats. He's only in his 3rd NHL season right now. One of the first one was shortened down due to COVID. So he's still a young guy. The kid's 21. He's literally our age. So, do we want him to improve quicker? Yeah. But do we want to rush it? No, it's a big problem with NHL players where they just join the team right away. They don't have enough time to develop, and then their career just becomes a huge bust. So I do see improvement in Lafreniere throughout his career. His point totals keep increasing. He's already on pace to set a new season high. So I think he is developing properly. And if it doesn't happen this season, it will happen within the next 2 or 3. But there's no pressure on him. He does need to step up, but he doesn't need to do anything too crazy. I have faith in the kid.
All right, you got faith in the kid, but someone has to be the devil's advocate.
And then if we do trade him and then just we don't get anything good in return, the Rangers organization will just look like fools for just drafting him over all of the other players in that draft.
as they tend to somewhat frequently, but
yeah,
that's okay. Someone has to be the hater. Someone has to be devil's advocate. And I will always assume that role. I will always take that position. And
I'm not used to receiving controversial takes from you on this channel. I'm flabbergasted. I don't know what to say.
I'm trying to spice it up, man. We got to have some discourse. We got to hate each other every now and then.
New year, new Tony being controversial.
New year, new devilish tone. But that's it. That's pretty much all we have for you. I'm going to wrap that one up with my devilish ways and my devil's advocacy. But we can wrap this up. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode and comment down below what are your thoughts on the 3 players that we mentioned. And of course, what are your thoughts on the Rangers heading into the 2023 calendar year? And how do you think their season's going to end? Again, shout out to Forever Blue Shirts. They gave us the idea for this episode. Great article written by them. Make sure to go check it out. And yeah, leave a like if you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. We will catch you on the next one. Have a good one. And let's go Rangers.
Go Rangers.